see me because I've been practicing my guitar. Well, not my guitar, but my friends. I came up with this idea, and I figured I'd come in and say hi, happy winter, and share a little story that maybe makes it easier for people to understand. Um, it's a story about this boat that was on the North Atlantic Ocean, and this boat was sailing around and had a captain and an admiral and a commander. It was a Navy boat, and it reached this new land it had never been before. And when it got off, it had seen that there was actually people living there, but they didn't dress the same or talk the same language or didn't, didn't look really recognizable. These people from the boat, it seemed like they were from a different world. And the people from the boat, because of some selfish pride and ignorance, decided that they were going to take claim to this land that they'd never owned in the first place. And then they decided that not only were they going to take claim of the land, but all the people that were on the land, they now were going to have to give money to these people from the boat. And that would be the new way of life. And if you didn't give money to these people that were on the boat, of course, well, some people that were on the boat were trained and had weapons, and they were told to go in and punish you and take your money. That system was called Admiral Law. And here in Newfoundland, which is the first place where any Europeans settled in North America, what would happen is that the people here would be minding their own business, getting along pretty good, doing their thing, drying fish and taking care of vegetables and family and normal human things, and actually get along okay. But then this big sailboat would come by, of course, and next thing you know, this admiral would get off this great big Navy sailboat, because it was sailboats back then, and he would need to be the ruler for the time that he was there, and he would enforce what they called back in those days canon law on the people. Um, for a long time, the people suffered through that, and they'd suffered through that kind of torture in England and in the 1200s. And they had fought against that. And they had taught when they had got here to North America that that tyranny would be over, of course, because the history of slavery has been lied to by so many people. All humans have been in chains. Uh, it's never been about the color of your skin. It's never been about what country you came from or your ancestors came from. It's always been about profit. Um, the Africans would sell their own to the Muslim kings and the Christian kings and pagan kings and Buddhist kings, and I would guess anyone that had money that was willing to buy. But let's not pick on the Africans, because in Europe, the Russians, of course, back in the day under the USSR, enslaved their own. England enslaved the Irish, enslaved the Scottish, enslaved the Welsh, enslaved India, many other places. So, and there was a period of time when African boats and other boats from other countries would come and rob white people from England and from Europe and take them back to be slaves. And so this was a thing that was done to all of us. And the reason it was done, because they had to keep us divided. They did not want us to wake up and realize that we are all one race, we are all one people. And it's only because of the books that we read that we are different. So if you're a child and you get a different book than I got, you probably think different. But if me and you were both babies and we were both given the same books, it doesn't matter what color my skin is, no matter what land I live on this planet, we're going to be the same. because we are all one race, one people. And rich people ate that. Governments ate that. Anyone that wants to control a human being, wants to profit from using human beings, will never agree with what I'm saying to you. But let's get back into the history of this place and let's teach people some things here. What made Canada and the United States so special, and even England at one time, was that we created a thing called the Magna Carta. Oops, the Magna Carta. And from that led to constitutions for every country in the world. In the Magna Carta, it says that no man can be governed by any man without consent. And I'd like to know where here in Canada that you have given the government the consent to govern people that haven't given them their consent to be governed. We live under a system now is no different than what the Germans lived under Hitler back in the Nazi days, as they called them over there, or Stalin in Russia, Mao in China. Um a lot of people don't know what slavery is. They're very, very ignorant to what slavery really means and what it is to be enslaved, especially if you're a human. We have these grander ideas of television and what we think as slaves. And mostly, if you were raised in North America, the only time you really talked about any slaves would have been African, and we left out the Irish slaves that were here. We left out the Polish slaves, the Russian slaves, the Chinese slaves, the Native American slaves. There was lots of people. If you weren't English and Protestant, if you were in this land, you weren't treated good. Because a lot of people forget that this land was fought for by England and conquered. And at that time, there wasn't no Catholic priest or pope. It was Protestant. There's also something about that culture that's different than most of the world is that we believe in common law on land and legal on the ocean. There's never been a time, only when we've been enslaved as a human race, when legal has been bounded to the human. And they've done it again through lies and deception through schools by not telling people the difference between a human being and a person, by not knowing the difference between what's traveling and what driving is, simple little things, by not knowing the difference between what a clerk is and a judge, using phony languages in court to rob you of your rights. The government was created by the people, so it cannot ever have power to rule over the people. The people are its creator. You don't tell your God what to do. So I don't understand how you can, because you didn't create God, but you did create government. And all government is a bunch of men and women in a building. And when you're going to court for that speeding ticket, please ask the judge to introduce you to whoever was armed. Because if there's no cause action, if no one has been harmed, you've not broken any law and you're not a criminal and you haven't committed a crime. An administrative rule is not a crime. And policies are only for people who are being paid to follow them. If you're not being paid to do something someone else is doing, you don't have to do it. Before you die, think about the children and the future of our province and our world. You live off their money and you don't even realize it because you've been swindled into a legal system through birth. Your birth certificate is really a bond. And the banker, what I'm told, put $1.2 million on that bond, and it's traded on the TSX in Toronto or in London somewhere. And it's basically they're betting on you and your energy and how long you're going to live and how much money and how much taxes you're going to pay and how much profit really you're going to make from them. They call it sweat equity. And if you work for labor, they call you dirty people and you don't deserve anything. And born in debt means that it's even worse because you're recognizing something that's not you. You tell people that you're smart, but when you look at the name on your birth certificate, you tell the world it's you. But the laws of the English language say that you're wrong. And they say that any letter, name, doesn't matter what it is, if a name is capitalized, that means that it's been capitalized. It means it's been taken over by someone. And the only way that you can get that capitalized name back is by applying for what you call your claim of life. Or the Charter of Rights in Canada calls it our security of person. And if you don't claim that life, you will live a life as a debt slave, and you will always be dead as far as anyone that's educated is concerned. You see, the government can't do anything with people that are alive. They can only deal with the dead because they're dead themselves. We live in a delusion where we believe that we can give men special powers that we don't have inside. If I don't have a bottle of liquor in my hand to offer you, or anywhere in this house, I can't tell you I have one to give you. It's the same thing with rights or authorities or I don't know whatever you want to call it. You cannot tell your neighbor that listen, it's okay for you to kill, but it's not okay for me. You cannot tell your neighbor just because you got voted into a building with a label called government that it's now okay. And the Bible tried to teach you that. It says, "Thou shalt not kill," and it doesn't say it's okay if the state says it's okay. And there's this thing I learned about politicians, and if you really want to know what they're doing to you when they come and ask you for their vote, I think you should look up Larkin Rose because he really makes it pretty simple. If I came up to you and said, vote for me, all I'm going to do is punch you in the mouth and steal your wallet. And you'd get pretty angry and you wouldn't want to vote for me. But what's the difference of you voting for someone that I didn't vote for and then they coming and taking money into my wallet and using force? But it's okay if it's done in this guy's called government. I hope you understand what I'm saying. When you go vote this time around, you will be voting for a debt to put on children for futures to come that they will never be able to pay. And they will have to pay more taxes. Their dollar will be higher interest, will be worth way less. And they will work more hours and they will work for less money. And they will not have the life that you had. And if you think that's honorable, well, fuck you. But I don't believe a real human being, I don't believe a real Canadian or Newfoundlander or American or Englishman or whoever you are on this planet believes that shit if you're educated and you have morals. I don't follow laws, I follow my morals. Men can write things on paper that are wrong and bad. And I've seen them do it many times. I've seen them kill millions of people in Iraq over lies because they were able to write ink on paper and people were foolish enough to follow it and think it was important. You're supposed to follow your heart and your mind, not what's on a piece of paper, dead ink. And it doesn't matter what someone wrote 10,000 years ago. You weren't there. So you're not bound to someone's contract from your great-great-grandfather. I don't know this delusional thinking we've been taught. I don't owe you anything. You don't owe me anything. We've been trained to be good slaves, to keep the wheels turning for the rich. People right now have made billions and trillions of dollars while people are starving and going bankrupt all around the world in masses. We've always known that the stock market is fake and rigged, and it's been proven now in the last couple of weeks because when good folks decided to go out and buy some stocks, they screwed up some people that were buying what's called short stocks, betting on the stock going below its price. Well, some people came and bought it honestly and genuinely, and stock went up. And these short stock people lost billions of dollars. But instead of doing the right thing, what did the stock market do? It altered trading. So these men wouldn't lose no more money. And that's not right. So that's If that's not proof enough that it's rigged, folks, how much more do you need? How many more people do we need to kill when we have no right to kill? How much shame and bloodshed are you going to bring on our children and grandchildren in the future? Newfoundland, Canada, England, America, it doesn't matter. You don't have any business to be going around telling the world how to live, interfering in whatever they're doing there, especially when you can't even take care of your own. I'm sick here in my province. I'm sick of my country because it's bankrupt, it's lawless, it's becoming more fascist every day, especially when we have so many dead headstones of men that killed fascists. Our children are being programmed with an education that is so embarrassing and so stupid, and nobody gives a damn. We live on a credit card and we are happy. And soon, you will not be allowed to own anything. You never have anyway, but now they're going to be legit because you're going to sign a piece of paper. You know, they did a thing that said that 7 out of 10 Canadians would not allow you to go shop in their store. They agree that businesses should keep you not so you couldn't eat if you didn't get that vaccine. It makes me wonder, how many Canadians would have watched the Jews go and get burnt in the incinerator because you act the hell a lot like those Germans did. It's okay because it's not happening to you. It's never okay, no matter if it happens to you or a stranger. No one's human rights should ever be violated. And children's futures shouldn't be robbed for profit of men and greed and for simple plain enjoyment of the here and now. If mom and dad can't pay their way, they should suffer like the rest of the world. They shouldn't live off of debt off their children. And a lot of people don't like it when I say stuff like that, but that's a fact. When you look in the mirror tonight, when you come home from work, if you live in Canada or England or Ireland or America or Australia or New Zealand, when you look in the mirror, remember that it's your children that are paying your salary that you get paid at the end of the week. It has nothing to do with you because your country is bankrupt. And that salary that you're making will never catch up. We've gone so far in debt that we now owe 1.3 trillion, they say, in Canada. That's what we're looking at. And our country doesn't make that much money in profit every year. So we're looking at like every Canadian, I don't know, GDP of $200,000 each or something like that. I mean, in debt. I mean, it's just kind of crazy. And the interest is so high on this debt that we'll never get back. We don't even get to pay the interest off. And nobody wants to do anything about any of this. So they just keep doing the same old shit, wasting money in booze and hockey games and baseball bullshit and fiction TV. And everybody feels good about it. And this is what blows me away about Canada because I never was raised to think Canada was like that. I always thought Canadians were people that were more concerned and had respect for their future, respect for their past, respect for our Constitution, for our Charter of Rights, for human rights, our inalienable rights. You ask a Canadian what that is, they don't even have a clue what I'm talking about right now. They don't even know, like you said, what law is. All they know is if I tell them to do something and if I got a gun, well, that's okay. And, I have to work for the government, sorry. I have to be part of a mafia, some criminal organized gang. Humans can't all be equal if you get to put on costumes and get special powers. I keep asking public employees all the time, can you please show me my contract I have with you that I've given you these powers? Where is this that you say I have? But nobody wants to show it. The argument is always the same. It's never an empirical evidence in any way. There's no empirical evidence, no facts. It's always the same circular bullshit. But because of the grade 5 mind, and that doesn't matter if it's a judge, a prime minister, a teacher, they're all dumb. It's not their fault. They're human beings that have been lied to and misled and have been fed a lot of bullshit in school. I've made numerous times, I've talked about how many people that can't, me included, don't even know the language that we speak. You know, because I gotta end this.